Hey guys, and welcome back to the Warwick F1 show. This is episode 14 of the 2025 season, and in this one we are going to be looking at previewing the Miami Grand Prix, which is happening this weekend. I'm your host Anwar for this episode, and like last time, I'm going to be joined by two returning guests, Lucy and Daniel. Thank you guys for joining me for this session. So just a brief overview of the circuit. No real changes. I guess there's not been any resurfacing, so nothing in terms of that to be interested in. This is a sprint weekend, which is something that we will discuss a bit. So I guess the first things that I want to ask you about are, do we like the Miami track? Are we excited for this weekend?
I'm always excited for a Formula One weekend, Anwar. But the issue is, it's a Miami Formula One weekend, which doesn't always deliver. I don't know what it is, because there's a good balance of high speed and low speed, and three DRS zones, which should be enough to provide some good action, but it just doesn't seem to click as it should in a Formula One circuit. It's probably the combination of the corners kind of separating the cars out as they try to follow through them, going into the long straights, which kind of and then they regain the gap in the DRS, but it's not quite enough. We've had three races there. 2024 was probably the best of them, if only for the shock result of a Norris win when he literally drove away from Verstappen, which was a turning point in the season for sure. But hopefully with a sprint as well, we can get a bit more action in. It'll be maybe it'll be delivering on its promises.
Do we like the fact that we're having so many sprint weekends so early on?
I mean, so many sprint weekends so early on. I think we've had two so far this season. I think there's 6 in total.
There are this year.
Right? Yeah, there are 6. So, I mean, to be honest, I kind of like the sprint weekends because I think, actually to be honest, it's because I really like qualifying, and so I like watching more qualifying. But which I think is the wildest reason anyone's ever given for why they like sprint weekends. But I mean, I think with Miami, because the racing's not always, the most interesting, to put it nicely. It's not a Formula 2 track. We've got quite a few rookies. Maybe they haven't driven it before. Having a fewer practice sessions could make it more interesting, as maybe they're still trying to get to grips with the track as they're doing the sprint and qualies and stuff like that, which could be interesting. To be honest, I don't really mind the sprint weekends. If they suddenly got rid of them, I would hardly be devastated, but I also don't hate them.
If you like qualifying, wait till Monaco.
I know. I'm only going to watch Saturday.
It's going to be great, isn't it?
Yeah, there's no point watching the Sunday. Let's be honest.
You know what happened in the last sprint weekend though? 3 post-race disqualifications.
Oh, maybe I should make that my random prediction that everyone's going to get disqualified.
Why not all 20? But it does seem to be the trend, doesn't it? We've seen it before as well. Austin 23 was one of them, where Hamilton and Leclerc got disqualified. It seems like the fewer practice sessions, they don't give the teams enough data to get the setup exactly right, low enough that they can generate enough downforce, but high enough so they don't wear the plank down and the rear skids, which leads to disqualification.
Or even if it's not disqualifications, I'm also thinking at that same Cota 23 track where Verstappen was out in the lead and then had some kind of brakes or something like that, or setup issue, and Hamilton was really closing in on him. He did then eventually get disqualified, but even so, maybe the fewer practice sessions is less time to tinker with the car and get it perfect for the whole race distance.
Yeah, I remember being annoyed that Verstappen got away with that one.
And then I was so relieved that we didn't get robbed of a victory.
Yeah, another Russell Spa 24 moment.
No, don't talk to me about that.
Okay, I'm sorry for bringing it up.
No, it's fine. It was just so stressful because I was trying to follow the results without watching it, and I was like, what on earth is going on?
Right. Yeah. But yeah, sprint weekend jeopardy is the word I'd use.
I think it does add a little bit of more excitement, and I think at least my kind of feeling about sprint weekends, when we have a little bit more contestability at the front end of the grid, it makes it a little bit more exciting than having the sprint race back in 2023, where it was domination and you kind of could predict the result very early on. So I guess that's a nice thing to see. It also means that we get entertainment on the Friday rather than 2 practice sessions.
Yeah, which I think, especially, I found, I love China as a sprint race, but, it was, if I'd wanted to watch the sprint race, I would have had to get up at 4 a.m, which I wasn't going to do. Whereas Miami, I won't have to do that, so for that reason, it has my seal of approval. But yeah, the sprint races definitely give the chance for, even back in 2023, when there wasn't that much competition, but, Piastri got his first... I say win in air quotation marks because I don't know whether we count it, but he won the Qatar sprint race. So because there's less time for overtaking, it is where you're maybe going to see a shock result if the qualifying's been interesting too.
True, I remember just being upset with sprints in 2023 because they changed the format from the previous 2 years. I don't know why they did that. I really liked it where they had the qualifying on the Friday afternoon and then the sprint on Saturday afternoon, and then that determined the grid for the race.
Why did they change that? I prefer it the way it is now.
But why did they change? I don't understand.
They changed it because no drivers would actually take risks.
But the Brazil 22 sprint race, there was so much going on, and there were collisions, people throwing themselves, and the two Alpines making contact in that sprint race, and that was the perfect example.
To be fair, I'm 90% sure the two Alpines made contact in every race that season. It felt like
true, and
they just loved each other. They just want to get that close.
Yeah, 99% of those were Esteban Ocon's fault. But that was the epitome of drivers taking risk despite there being something to lose.
To be fair though, is that just because Interlagos is the kind of track where you can do that?
Just because it's a GOAT track.
Yeah, true. It is a GOAT track. Maybe I'm blinded by that, but it just seems a bit removed from from the actual Grand Prix.
Replace Miami with another Interlagos Grand Prix.
Sign me up.
Copy paste into Miami.
Yeah.
Honestly, what a track. Let's move on to away from this sprint racetrack and we'll look at in terms of what our expectations are. Looking at the first part of the season and thinking about Miami here, we've seen the McLaren generally has been the quickest car. Do we expect that to change here?
I don't expect it to change based on a couple of factors. I think the field will be closer than they were in Bahrain, for example, because there's less tyre degradation in Miami. It was resurfaced in 2023, which we know means too little tyre degradation for overtaking most of the time, unfortunately. But it might be different this time, who knows. But also there's the fact of the temperature, which kind of will play in McLaren's favour. It's going to be 28 degrees or something on the Friday, I think, which isn't quite hot enough for the FIA to get their optional driver cooling systems out, which is 31 degrees is the threshold for that. But it is still going to be uncomfortable in the car that's in those temperatures. Miami is kind of known as being a diver's paradise because there's loads of shipwrecks there, but I don't think it's going to be a driver's paradise if it's going to be 28 degrees and they're roasting in their cockpits and
Did you just research trivia about Miami so you could make a pun?
Look, I had a lot of time on my hands this morning. Okay.
Clearly.
I had some preparation, but yeah. I think that McLaren will be strong. I think Red Bull will also be strong, akin to probably, but how strong we'll have to see.
I feel like Verstappen over the last couple of races has given me a little bit more confidence that we're going to have a little bit of a contest. Obviously we should never forget that he is ultimately the best driver on the grid at this moment in time, but I think that's undeniable. But I think for a few moments, at least at the beginning of the season, I thought, this is looking quite ropey in terms of an entertaining season. But I think him winning at Suzuka, taking pole, it gives us a little bit of promise, right?
Yeah, I think at least the way things are right now, I think that especially, provided that Red Bull don't have many, if any, more tracks like Bahrain was for them, there are 3 people in this championship fight. And that's provided that none of the other teams, like Mercedes, don't bring a giant upgrade package. Ferrari don't bring a giant upgrade package that completely turns the tables. Again, that's kind of all dependent on that.
And that's ultimately unlikely.
Yeah, because it's the last season
next year. Got a new brake change, right?
Yeah, they're going to be switching their attention. But on Max, he's just 12 points off the lead in the Drivers' Championship, right? And all it takes is
a retirement
or another Australia moment for Piastri, where he only got 2 points as opposed to Norris's 25. Just kind of that swing. And those moments, those DNFs, mistakes that we don't normally see from Verstappen, that could open the door wide open. And I think it would be closer, obviously, if Verstappen got that win in Jeddah. I mean, I can't remember the last win that was on the cards for Max that he didn't get. I mean,
he doesn't exactly fall flat of expectations.
Exactly,
right?
It was all in the start. He just lost it there, and
he showed good pace as well. That's the other thing.
Precisely, I think he was surprised by how much pace he had relative to the McLaren, and that's why he was so annoyed, because he knew that win was his and it slipped through his fingers. So I think he's going to want to come back with a vengeance for Miami, and he's not going to want to throw away any more opportunities that come his way.
Because I think you're bang on the money there.
I also think as well, in terms of coming back from like the top 3 in the championship, that Norris had a good like kind of drive after kind of obviously not finishing quali at Jeddah. He had a pretty good drive back through the field, and I reckon he like Miami, I would suspect, is a circuit that he's confident on. He got his first win last year, which I think that he's had kind of a week for sort of any potential kind of ramifications from his maybe bad Bahrain weekend and bad Jeddah quali to kind of for him to sort of reset, go back to a circuit which he seems to like, and which Piastri did not do as well on last year, although that was because Sainz drove into him.
He did have race-winning pace, Piastri, when he had that moment in clean air at the front of the field, and then he boxed and it got messy with Sainz and he didn't get any points, so that was a bad weekend for him on the whole. So I wonder how that will impact him. Probably not. He doesn't seem to feel that kind of...
Yeah, could be wishful thinking, but I think it could be close between the top 3 in the championship this weekend.
I finally want that battle between the McLaren drivers that we've been promised.
I want a battle
haven't got yet.
I want a battle between all 3 of them. 3 people into the first corner.
That's ambitious, but I want it too.
I think we might get our wish at some point. I think this is... I'm thinking that this is going to be a 3-way battle, like you guys have mentioned. So, I guess, do we think that Norris is going to be back? Do you think he, given the week break, I guess, will be back to his best form?
He needed the break, didn't he?
Yeah.
It was probably the mental kind of side of his performance that was almost faltering towards the end. I mean, the mistake in Saudi Arabia, obviously we touched on it in the review, but it was just a kind of a mentality error in that he just misjudged it. Maybe he lacked concentration for a moment, and then he was in the wall. So I think now that he's had a week off, he can kind of gather himself. He can talk to his trainer. He can talk to whoever he needs to, and whoever he normally does, to kind of get back in the right frame of mind and realise that I am confident enough in my talent that I can drive this car to pole positions and to wins. I just need to take it back a step in qualifying to be able to do so.
Yeah, I think as well, like, obviously, Australia is a chaotic race, but, like, he did win that race, and that was a stellar performance from Norris in that race. So, like, it is clear that he's got the potential in this year's McLaren car. This isn't even talking about last year. He's got good performance in this year's car, and so I'm hoping and expecting that he'll be back at the front come Saturday and Sunday and Friday, I guess.
Yeah, across the 3 days it's ultimately a sprint weekend, right? So I think it's important. It's important that he steps back up, and if he doesn't necessarily need to win, but I think if he's in the fight, that will do wonders for him, right? I think he's got absolute. I think the car underneath him is obviously pretty good, and I guess having the week off as well might help him adapt to this car a little better, because he's obviously mentioned his struggles with it. In terms of the people who are kind of in behind the McLarens, do we see any threat from the Mercedes or the Ferraris here? Do we think Hamilton can wind back the clock again?
Mercedes had a bizarre Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. They were very anonymous. It's not what we've normally seen. They really didn't have the pace of even the top 3 teams above them at the end of the race. I mean, Charles Leclerc just waltzed past George Russell and drove away, really, at the end of the day. And we've seen earlier in the season Mercedes being the second quickest team. Maybe it's track specific, but I wouldn't say Jeddah and Miami are worlds apart in terms of track characteristics, maybe. So
probably a little bit less in terms of the faster corners.
In Miami's less, right?
Yeah, sorry, yeah. Jeddah's got more high speeds. Sorry,
I'd say so. Yeah. So I'm not expecting wonders from Mercedes, to be honest, just picking up some points. But Ferrari, I expect to close on Red Bull in the Constructors' Championship. that might even go their way by the end of the weekend.
Would we say Ferrari have been the biggest disappointment this season?
Ooh.
No, Sauber have been the biggest disappointment this season.
But have they? Did we ever have expectations?
But
for Sauber?
I think that may be because I just always hope that like the teams at the bottom might just somehow Sauber after Australia. I was like, oh my god, Sauber are going to be in the points every week, and that did not in fact
You
happen.
wanted them to do an Aston Martin from 23.
I just thought that it would be fun.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I didn't expect Sauber to get points this early in the season.
Yeah, which begs the question: have Ferrari been the biggest disappointment?
I think Lawson was probably my biggest disappointment personally of the year so far. But Ferrari, for sure. I mean, I was saying earlier on in the season, surely they're going to turn up this weekend. They were fighting for the Constructors' Championship last year. They
were there.
Yeah,
they were in that
true.
fight, right?
And then they were the fourth fastest car or something come the
It was
start of the
literally
year.
it was literally something like, I think if Sainz hadn't crashed with Perez at Baku, they would have won the Constructors.
Exactly. By 1 point, I think it was.
Yeah, because Norris got shuffled that one from that crash or something.
Yes.
I don't know.
Oh no, that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ferrari, what are they doing?
I think we ask this question every single week and also every single year. I'm sure that there was someone in 1950 when this championship started who were like, Ferrari, what are they doing?
It's just, I felt really excited when it was obviously Leclerc and Hamilton, and that is categorically one of the coolest and most skilled driver lineups we've ever had in Formula One, right? In terms of pedigree and quality. And I feel like with all that expectation, they've not really obviously they've got that sprint win. I'm not forgetting that, but I feel whenever we have these discussions at who's going to be at the sharp end of the grid, Ferrari aren't ever really involved in that.
Yeah, because they got that sprint win and then also got disqualified. So I think, to be honest, that weekend's slightly spoiled for them.
Yeah.
I guess that's the thing, is that I guess that indicates that Ferrari are unpredictable, is that they may be at the sharp end fighting for a victory, but it feels, at least the way that at least I perceive it, and I think maybe fans in general perceive it, you always go into the weekend feeling that there's an equal chance that they're fighting at the front or that they're fighting to not get disqualified.
Yeah, very true. I mean, you say Ferrari haven't been quite on the pace, but Norris Hamilton, really, it's been.
But I think that was you've kind of read my mind there.
Yeah, we talk about the greatest union in Formula One history, most successful team, most successful driver, but it's not working the fairy tale magic that everyone wanted it to be, which is it's disappointing to see.
I guess as well there is then the question of, did everyone kind of place too much? There was a lot of, especially because it was announced so early in 2024, kind of was there sort of, in a way, too much hype around it before it started.
I think maybe people underestimated how big a change it was going to be for Hamilton to get into that car, and just expected him from the word go to be battling with Charles Leclerc.
We saw how he adapted slower to the 2022 regulations, right? He's been on record saying he doesn't like this set of regulations.
I guess maybe if he's gone there for 2026 and he wants there, and he kind of has gone there in 25 so he can have a say over how the 26 cars developed, then maybe the plan all along is for this season to be kind of getting embedded in the team, and then next year will be the actual kind of aim for glory season.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't work in Ferrari upper management, so I can't tell you that.
What a shame.
I do hope it turns around for him, because I don't want to have another season of him doing the same old post-race interviews with him looking very downbeat. I'm kind of getting tired of it, in truth. I've seen it so often. How many races have we seen him say, I don't get it. That brain transplant comment was the thing that's kind of lingering in my head. I was thinking, I was like, wow. It's like, is it that much of a problem?
Especially after qualifying as well. I think
it's
that's
not even right.
Especially where he's been falling short of Charles Leclerc. We know Lewis Hamilton's race pace is good. It always has been, great even. But the qualifying pace, as of recent, even in the Mercedes, it's been called into question. So I think maybe it is a case of waiting for the next regs and having a fresh start along with everyone else, seeing how we can adapt and hit the ground running.
I hope for his sake that he can get over his troubles here. In terms of the midfield battle, we're seeing lots of variation here, aren't we? In terms of one weekend, for example, last weekend it was the Williams in the points, both Williams in the points. Lucy is celebrating right now as our token Williams fan here.
Yeah. The only Williams fan to ever exist.
Oh. They're getting more though.
They're getting more though.
Do we think that we're going to have another different constructor in that top 10? We've had Alpine in that conversation with Gasly at least. We've had the RBs as well being in the points. Do we think that we're going to have another bit of variation there?
To be honest, I guess it's just unpredictable. I think that we've talked about the midfield, but I think that if the Red Bull is kind of not terrible this weekend, and also he doesn't go out on the first lap, I'd expect Tsunoda to be up in that top 10, which kind of, yes, I said not midfield, but still, that's a space in the top 10.
Yeah.
I'm thinking
it would occupy a space that another team can't take.
I mean, Williams got double points last week, but I guess the way I'd describe it is that I'd be surprised if a midfield team got a double points. If we're assuming that the top 4 teams take up 8 spaces in the top 10, even if it's not the top 8, I'd expect there to be a Haas and an RB or something like that in the last 2 spaces, as opposed to 2 of the same team.
Yeah, I'm also curious to see Alpine's pace as well, because obviously we didn't see what Gasly had to offer in Saudi Arabia because of the first lap collision with Tsunoda.
And the other thing was Doohan's on an alternate strategy as well.
Yeah,
right.
But Bahrain was looking good for Alpine, true. So, as this kind of...
Exactly.
Yeah.
What can they offer in terms of being best of the rest? I think they're going to go well, personally, with Gasly.
Yeah. And you never know where Haas are. Haas are very up and down as well, right? So they can go... They looked in testing like the worst car on the grid, then they get a double points finish in a couple races after.
My incredible prediction strategy tell me that Sauber will probably be last.
You know what? I would agree with that, but
I'd also say that Aston Martin have been. It's not that I was expecting them to do an Aston Martin 2023 and be up there fighting for podiums, but they've just. It feels like, I don't know. I wasn't expecting anything, and yet I find myself disappointed.
Like the green on their livery compared to previous years, they faded away slowly.
Yeah, they got rid of the paint on the side of their car, and they're still really slow. Like, what is the point?
Maybe it's made them slower,
Oh my god. Yeah, Aston, put more paint on your car, you'll go faster.
Do it.
I think with Aston, they are banking so heavily on this 26 regulation with Newey. Newey has to nail it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, which I don't doubt his ability to. He's ultimately proven that time and time again.
I don't doubt his ability to design a good set of aero for that car. I doubt Aston's ability to provide the rest of the car.
And Stroll's ability to drive it.
Yeah. I thought that went unsaid. Sorry to the I think the one Stroll fan in this society who
Oscar.
may be listening.
Yes.
Sorry to Oscar. I'm sure he'll be fine.
Just wait for our predictions.
Oh god.
Maybe don't tune in for that part, Oscar.
Yeah.
Anyway,
for his own sanity. Right. That's pretty much all I wanted to talk about in terms of the build up to it. Let's move on to our predictions, which is, I guess, the part where we see how good our wheel knowledge is or how bad it is in certain cases. So who wants to go first here? Who wants to roll the dice first?
I can feel your judgmental eye contact when you said we're going to test your wheel knowledge, so I'm going to go first.
Prove me wrong, Lucy.
Okay. Sprint win. I hope you know that I made a note next to the sprint win to say someone random ? I know you said that Merck were a bit anonymous in Jeddah, so now I regret this decision, but I've said Russell for a sprint win. I think we got a slightly more random one with Hamilton in winning the sprint in China, Merck will do it this time. And I think for Russell's sanity, I've put him instead of Antonelli because I think he would be sad if he got beat by an 18-year-old. And then for my top 5, I've said Norris is going to win. He likes this track. He won here last year. I think, he's had a reset and I'm predicting he'll do well. I've said Leclerc P2. I don't know what Ferrari's up to, but for some reason my brain is saying something good this weekend. although this is me we're talking about, so they'll probably both DSQ again. I've said Piastri P3.
I'm loving the confidence in your own predictions here.
Listen, I either want to go for a really good set of predictions or I want to go for an unbeatable record of 0 points from these predictions. I'd be happy with either at this point. I've gone Piastri P3, so still up there, but I don't know, I just think that, he's not going to be dominant in the way that he was in Bahrain, or even once he got the lead in Jeddah, the way he kind of was in Jeddah. Because while there was debate around whether he was going to actually win it, kind of once he started winning, he didn't really stop. But he's still going to be up there. Then I said Verstappen P4, although again that could be on the podium, could be slightly off the podium. I don't really know what Red Bull's doing either. To be honest, I just don't know what anyone's doing. And then I said Russell P5. I don't think he's going to do the double of a sprint and a race win, but I don't think Merc are that bad. I think he can get a top 5.
Interesting. Right, Daniel, you want to go next?
Okay, so for the sprint win, we're going to have a Ferrari clean sweep of sprints this year. I've gone for Charles Leclerc to get the sprint win, just because it's kind of, like you said, it's kind of random. It doesn't really matter.
A fun
it doesn't
time.
count for much. It's just 8 points. Why not? Let's have fun. P1, I've put here that Norris is going to recreate the events of 1788 when Great Britain invaded, conquered, and controlled the continent of Australia. He's going to get on top of his issues. And in second place, we have Oscar Piastri, who is Australia in that analogy, in case you didn't catch on.
Yeah, we needed the clarification.
Thank you.
There, right?
Yeah, I
thought it could be Daniel Ricciardo.
Yeah,
I thought
Oscar.
you might have done.
It could be Jack Doohan.
Exactly.
Oscar Piastri is now the entire country of Australia.
Or Mark Webber comes back and he beats
What?
him instead.
Mark Webber comes.
I don't know. Anyway.
Not bad for a number 2 driver.
Yes, exactly.
Multi 21.
Oh god, Piastri is so lucky to have him as his manager. By the way, that's good luck. P3 is going to be Leclerc. Monaco didn't actually exist for another half a century after the invasion of Australia.
How much research have you done?
That's where the analogy ends. You'll be glad to know.
I'm glad to know.
But Ferrari have had some good race pace recently, and Leclerc has got a podium. He has podiumed in 2 of the last 3 races held in Miami. So he's obviously comfortable there, except for when he chucked it into the wall in 2023 qualifying, which wasn't so good. And
Halfway through, as Martin Brundle described it, a magnificent lap, and then he immediately drove into the wall, I'd like to say.
This is a great place to watch Formula 1 cars, he says, as Leclerc plummets into the wall. Anyway, like you, Lucy, I've gone for Verstappen P4 and Russell P5. I'm going to steal your reasoning because I liked it, so refer back to Lucy's comments.
Cool, let's move on to mine. I think it's crazy, right? For our sprint wins, none of us have said a McLaren. Because I've gone with what I feel was the most realistic non-McLaren option, which is Verstappen taking the sprint win.
I think we've all just decided that we need something more interesting than a McLaren.
No, I don't know about you guys. I do truly believe Verstappen will win this.
Oh no, I fully believe mine is possible.
Okay.
I just also think it's funny.
Yeah, maybe it is us trying to spice it up. But I think the Red Bull will be quick here. I don't know, just got a feeling. So I'm trusting my instincts there. So I've gone Verstappen with the sprint win. I have said Lando Norris will take a win here. I think he will get over the hump and show everyone why he deserves to be in this championship fight. So I think he will be P1. I put Verstappen second, so I think he's going to be in the conversation, maybe on Norris's tail. So that's him there. I put Piastri third. I'm just thinking, no way he does it again. So I put him third. Put Leclerc fourth. I don't really have any reason for that. It feels a little bit random, and I've gone Yuki Tsunoda in P5.
I did that last weekend. It did not end well. So good luck for you with
I
that.
did that the weekend before. I was technically half right because he got P10, and so that's half of P5.
Right. I like the mental gymnastics.
Half a point.
Well,
Retroactive.
I can tell you we're not awarding a point for that.
I need please. I only got 1 point from Bahrain.
Yeah, and we're keeping it as 1 point. Cool. Lucy, do you want to introduce your DNF and random prediction then?
Having just said, I'm sure he'll be fine in air quotation marks. My DNF is Lance Stroll. I don't know if he's going to DNF. I think I said this for Saudi, but I don't think it's early enough we're fully enough into the year to be able to say, oh, X's engine is running out, so he'll probably have a mechanical issue if he doesn't change his engine.
And they're also really rare.
Yeah, I've gone for Stroll because I feel like of the people on the grid, he is the most reliable one of the most reliable in terms of DNFing.
You can trust him to do that.
The other one who I think is reliable in terms of crashing is, at least from the last 2 races, my random prediction is that Lawson is going to get at least 2 penalties. This is not including the sprint, this is just the main race. He got 2 penalties in Bahrain, he got 1 in Jeddah, I believe in the guy. You can do it.
Words of encouragement for sure. Daniel, what is your DNF and random prediction?
By the way, that Lawson penalty, that made no sense to me. Did you see the incident? He overtook Doohan. It was a DRS pass on the main straight.
I recall this.
And then he just exceeded track limits ever so slightly, and they gave him a 10-second penalty for it, even though he'd done the move on the straight, not into the braking zone.
This is the FIA we're talking about. Why are we surprised?
We had a bit of a rant of it last episode, so I don't want to revisit that.
I haven't listened to last episode yet.
I was still seething about it. Anyway, DNF. So this is really random. I put all the driver numbers into like a Wheel of Fortune thing, and I spun.
This is one of the ways to make a prediction.
Yeah, because I just didn't know who to pick. It picked Leclerc, and I was like, I'm not doing that. I'll put him on the podium. I'm not rewriting my predictions now. So it gave me number 23, Alex Albon.
No.
I know. I'm sorry. Maybe it'll open the door for a good safety car and Carlos Sainz to get a podium or something.
Yay!
To be fair, safety cars are pretty common around here. 66% of 3 races, so 2 out of 3, we take those.
Don't think that's enough. Don't think that's enough data.
That's a perfect sample size in my eyes.
What 3?
3.
Good.
No more, no less.
Okay.
I'll
write that in my quantitative analysis exam. 3 is the perfect sample size.
You'll get a lot of marks for that. Wasn't there one in the sprint last year as well? Because there was a crash on the first lap and Norris was out, I believe.
Yes.
Oh yes, because Perez nearly took Verstappen out. Remember?
Perez tried to do a Bottas impression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have someone do that. Maybe
Lawson.
Lawson forgets whose team he's.
Lawson or Stroll.
Lawson takes takes Perez's role and tries to take Verstappen out first corner.
That actually leads very well onto my random prediction.
That was a nice segue, wasn't it?
It was a great segue, thank you. I was going to go for like an animal on track. I thought about an alligator because actually, fun fact about alligators.
Oh right, more.
I was looking at a lot of Miami trivia. You can find alligators in all 67 of Miami's counties.
That's actually really interesting.
I know it is.
That in mind.
No, Florida's counties. Florida's counties, not Miami. Miami-Dade is one of the Florida counties. And also, alligators can exert up to 1,000 pounds of pressure onto their food, which is enormous.
Like a Natural Geographic podcast more than an F1
which
podcast.
is an enormous amount of pressure, but it's still not as much as Helmut Marko exerts on the Red Bull Junior drivers. There we go. I had to get that one in there. Okay, random prediction. Stroll crashes into someone. He doesn't know how to use his mirrors, so.
At a certain point, I do have to outroll a Stroll thing because it's like such a such a gimme.
Maybe to link those 2 points together, it's not actually Stroll's fault. He sees an alligator, he swerves to avoid it and hits someone.
Stroll, not a humanitarian because it's an animal. What would he be? The empath.
You sure?
Stroll the empath.
Good. Look, I'm gonna keep my DNF and random prediction nice and sweet here.
Sorry.
It's all good. I've said DNF is Gabriel Bortoletto. No reason, just think
he's in
it
a
might
Sauber.
happen. He is in a Sauber. Stuff at the back of the grid happens. My random prediction though is one that I think you guys might need to think about here. 2 teammates will collide.
Wait, 2 teammates. So is that? Are we saying like 2 pairs of teammates, or is it just 2 people from the same
2
team?
people from the same team.
Oh, that's okay. What are we counting as a collision?
One's got damage that's visible.
Okay, visible damage to at least one car.
And are we saying sprint and race or just
race?
Just race.
Yeah. I mean, all of our random predictions are just race.
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with that.
Right,
Yeah, that's okay.
Provided we clarify that it's visible damage.
Yeah.
If 2 teammates
visible, or they have to pit or retire because of it.
Yeah, it's either visible or there's some tangible consequence.
Yeah, it's not like a touching tyres.
Yeah.
Not rubber on rubber.
Yeah, no.
Cool, I'm glad that we got that covered. Dan, do you have any more facts about Miami before we close off the session? Close off the episode?
Sadly, that's all I know.
Oh no!
We're saving the rest for the review episode.
Oh
I
no!
need to look into some more Miami trivia for the review.
Oh no! Anyway,
Miami's not actually the capital of Florida.
right.
Florida has a capital?
Yeah, it's
I'm
Jacksonville.
locking this show off.
Is
right.
it?
Yeah.
Thank you very much for watching and hearing all of the random facts that we brought out in this episode. I want to thank my guests, Lucy and Daniel, for their F1 knowledge as well as their random knowledge too. I appreciate
aim
the
to
second, the
help.
latter less. But we'll see you guys for the next episode where we will be reviewing the events of the Miami Grand Prix. So until next time, thank you guys very much for listening or watching, and I hope we see you soon. Goodbye.